Hello, this is John Sace, host of the bi-weekly podcast, Half Truths and Whole Lies. And as we know, there's a whole lot of lies out there. In this episode, we explore the dramatic rise in gambling addiction when a 10-year-old knows the betting line and the over-under on a Spurs playoff game better than his dad and starts gambling on some site like DraftKings. It's not a beer service or FanDuels. What the hell is going on here? You know, when our high school students stop looking at porn sites and go to betting sites, what is going on with the morality of our youth? It is bets over butts. It is crazy out there. What a wild world. When our governments, officials collude with the big gaming industry guys to take your money, target the poor. Let's go to 7-Eleven, do the lottery. Let's go online. Let's do FanDuels. What the heck? What? This is going nuts. And then in addition, now there's what they call the poly markets. Basically betting on anything through the stock market. It's legal and pretty much you can bet on everything to, is Donald Trump changing his underwear today? Or are you going to have McDonald's tonight? Oh, maybe a strawberry shake. What the heck? Crazy betting. Betting on deaths. Betting on lives. The world is going bonkers. It's not helping anybody. It's just big money. And we're going to be exploring this on this episode with my co-host. So let's get to it. Hello, this is John Sace, host of the podcast, Half Truths and Whole Lies, along with my brother and co-host, Carl. I was planned. He was an accident, as they say. How are you doing, Carl?
I'm awesome, John. I'm awesome. It's a beautiful Saturday morning in Dallas, Texas.
Man, I'm tired of you being so awesome. You're always damn
okay,
awesome.
I'm wonderful.
Well, before we get going, I'd just like to, I got a couple emails about the show. And
Did you?
Yes. The first one is from a lady. She said, "Can you put that Ken doll guy on more?" And then she said, "The one with the glasses."
Thank you. What was her name? Let me take her name.
Mary Jo Belitsky. She wants to see more of you.
John's channeling our father. I was sure. What was her name that Dad used to always say? Lucy Bowles.
Yeah, Lucy Bowles. Yeah, I'm sure she's written in too.
Yes, I'm sure she has.
And then there was another writer named Doc who said, "Man, I agree with everything your brother Carl says. He says, you are a schmuck," meaning me. I was going, what is that? What? I can't believe somebody agreed with you. And then one of our nieces wrote in and said, "Both of my uncles look like death warmed over." I would agree with the ugly one a little bit more than the pretty boy. Our subject for today is the rise in gambling and the gambling addiction and what's really happening here. Start off on it. The gambling market today is about $650 billion worldwide. And a good chunk of that is lottery and bingo. I guess all these old ladies are wasting their money in bingo. And then lottery, you know, people go to those 7-Elevens a lot and do that constantly, even though their chances are stupidly ridiculous. Online gaming area is about $150 billion.
Yes.
Now, when you switch to poly markets, which is not considered online gambling, it's about $150 billion this year, and it's going to be doubling every year, while the growth rate of just general gambling is only 4.6%. The poly market now is huge, and then there's that chunk of the online gambling, which everybody's heard of now, FanDuels and DraftKings. They are just ridiculously influencing our younger people and even older people. Everybody's betting. Now, before we get going, I'd like you to talk about some of the conspiracies, but just a couple weird bets I've heard of, and you might have heard of a couple more. One of them was specific to wording. They have lots of bets on wording. This last bet, I think, occurred in last year. How many times will Trump say tampon? And it was like they bet,
I'm trying to think, has he ever said tampon?
You know, they actually had a big bet on that. And I was going, that's nuts. And then this one is crazy. Will Trump smoke weed when he visits Joe Rogan? And they exchanged, the amount of money exchanged was about $200,000.
That smoked some weed with Rogan?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But the probability was less than 1%. But still,
I would not bet on
200,000 was bets. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the sort of conspiracies or ideas about these poly markets and gambling? What's going on with some of them?
Well, the big thing in poly markets that concerns me is just who's going to influence the bet. You know, there is a conspiracy. Remember the pilot that went down in Iran?
Yes.
Well, I heard that a lot of people were pissed off that he got saved because they bet against it, but there was a bunch of Iranians betting on it, and they actually helped him get out. That's kind of crazy, but, you know, they got to make some money somehow with all these sanctions. I mean, I don't blame them.
So those guys hiding out in the mountains, the Iranians were actually just traipsing around and giving them, like, radioing, hey, we're over here.
Yeah, they were trying to help them, or they were kind of fooling the Republican Guard, you know, trying to redirect them away from them.
That brings up an idea that I read about markets. In other words, people want to influence the way they are betting. There's starting to be people that are trying to drive the narrative on some story so that they can win money. Okay, there's this idea that there is a true conspiracy between government and big money and donors to actually influence more and more gambling availability in the United States. Is that real, or is that just the fact that government wants more taxes? Is it really a collusion between the two sides, government and big gambling?
When you talk about that, what I have read was what lobbyists do for the gambling industry is basically they're going to fund a guy's campaign, right? So you can't touch the campaign money now. What they really do is the retirement plan. What the retirement plan is this politician helps them get gambling legalized or online gambling legalized. When they don't get voted back into office or they retire from office, they're now a consultant for the gambling industry with a $500,000 a year paycheck. It happens. That's just not the gambling industry. It's many industries, you know what I mean?
So there's also the idea that these market in general are setting the news. Like you see Fox and even CNN putting up Calci's prediction numbers. So the markets themselves and the people that run those markets can actually kind of point to what's reality or not. And I heard that as another conspiracy is Trump Jr. owns a stake in the poly market and he's an advisor to Calci. So I don't know if we want Trump Jr. influence.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I'm thinking about that tampon bet. Trump Jr. is going to go, hey, Dad, say tampon at least 4 times this week.
Yeah,
your
rally.
Going to make us $100 million.
Yeah, your rally against Waltz. Tampon, tampon, tampon.
Say you've heard that they're putting tampons in boys' bathrooms and, you know, go off on it.
I wonder how they calculate it. What if he stutters and go, tampon? Is that 3 times or 4?
I count that as 1. But
I've actually also saw some of the bets. They're very specific, and they have actually very tight rules. Okay, there's one about, is Jesus returning in 2027? And there was like, how do you prove this?
Yeah.
And so it had to be like...
What if I just change my name to Jesus and come show up?
Well, there's already about 50,000 in Mexico. I've met many Jesuses in my teaching career. So they actually said that it would have to be like the global consensus of the news organizations along with some other proof. I don't know. Maybe they make them do a miracle. Probably they'll change water into wine. If they can do that for all the journalists, they'll go, oh yeah, this guy's Jesus. And the last one, kind of a conspiracy, but it's really probably a reality, is that we're really, you know, how like income tax usually is to distribute wealth from the fairly well off and make it easier on the poor. While in gambling, it's typically the very poor, the people that go into the 7-Eleven every day and that's all they drink some coffee and write up a lottery ticket and scratch offs, and they waste $50 a day. Some people believe it's really a collusion. The rich are wealth redistribution from the poor to the wealthy. What do you think about that idea?
Well, it seems to be backed up by the fact that we've lowered taxes on the wealthy and basically legalized all forms of gambling. We're in Texas, and you don't have online gambling, but you do have a lottery.
Yeah, supposedly it's supposed to help the school system, but they get very little money. I really think the gambling thing is harming our students because, hey, you know, I'm in class, and they're all on their phones, and they're all either on YouTube, TikTok, or on some damn gambling site.
Yeah, and they've logged on using their older brothers or their cousin down the street's name and account, who don't mind as long as they're funding it with their own money.
Yeah, they don't mind, especially if they say, well, if you use my account, give me a percent, or maybe they don't even understand percentage, ignoring that fact. They can't calculate percentage. 10% is hard.
I got to understand where John was teaching folks.
I always ask, 10% of 100, what is that? $2? $2? I don't know.
Let's not disparage the students of Texas.
10 equals 5x. Do I divide or multiply? I don't. Anyway, I don't know what this has to do with gambling, but they're addicted to something. It's not intelligence. Okay.
Well, it just goes to show they're going to lose their money because they don't really understand the odds on the parlay.
Some of them do now, like the little kids do. The last one is kind of like society is in a downhill spiral due to what they call the casinofication of reality, meaning everything now is a bet. Whatever comes up, people are going to bet on it and are just hoping for a particular outcome. They don't really care about what's going on. They just want to find out and bet on it. It's like nothing is almost real. It's just a game. Everything's a game now. What is your opinion of that?
Well, I think it's shifting that way. I mean, if you look at the stock market and what's going on, I mean, there's more margin betting or trading, as like they call it, on more speculative stocks than ever. I think that, people are kind of getting this attitude about, striking it rich. It's all about money now and not like working hard and investing smart. We need to get big hit now. So instantaneous gratification kind of linked into, reels and other short-term, my attention span is, 30 seconds. I gotta deal with it. So, like the guy who said, hey, my wife divorced me because of my gambling addiction, and she got ready to leave, and they'll say, I'll bet you $100 you're back by next Tuesday.
Actually heard people say that a lot of the younger people don't believe that they're part of the American dream and they won't be able to get a house, so they're just looking for quick ways to make money, and they're betting on meme stocks and all that. I think the society is like, okay, talking about like arousal. They don't even, young guys don't even care about like foreplay. They just take a blue chew.
Yeah. Well, I talked to a young man I work with at the golf course, and I was saying, we're doing this podcast on gambling, and he goes, oh yeah, everybody gambles. And he goes, and he's about 22, 23. He goes, we don't think we're going to ever own a house unless we somehow get a big slug of money. And I was asking him how they gamble, and we were talking about it. They do there's offshore stuff like Bovado and some other things, which is a little bit risky, but typically they pay off. I've looked at those sites because, we're in Texas. I'm like, how the heck do you gamble? And then he's talking about the poly markets. You can gamble on games and stuff like that right now if you log on and submit money.
Yeah, which is legal if you're 18 for sure. Yeah, I think the idea that, hey, we just got to bet, make money because I don't have the ability to make, long term. But that's because a lot of them have gotten this attitude. They're not going to work hard and they want a different lifestyle. It's a different world. So it's interesting. So switching gears a little bit, because of the youth idea, the advertising spend of like just FanDuel's and DraftKings is like $80 million. A lot of that is on big broadband TV sports events. And it makes sense because you hear it everywhere. So when you have your little kid with you who's 5 to 10, he's seeing FanDuel's, DraftKings every friggin' game. And then they're using now, because every kid is always on some kind of TikTok or something, they're using influencers. I heard that of the $80 million, they gave $21 million to one guy called Tim the Hat Man, who's apparently really highly touted young influencers about gaming. They're doing gaming, and then obviously you brought up gaming, and they're starting to make bets because all these guys are doing it associated with their gaming, even their video games, maybe.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
What kind of drives me crazy is every sports figure, is now bought out by MGM or FanDuel or DraftKings or any of the big gambling houses. There's only a few that refuse to do it. Is it a French tennis star had offered $250,000? She refused to do it and said she would not directly or indirectly support gambling because it's basically bad for society. And then a couple of guys in Australia, I'm not sure if he's an Australian rules football player or soccer player, now refused to take any money for it. So I've lost a lot of respect for guys like Peyton Manning and
LeBron James always talks
all these guys on these sites. Now there's some guys who haven't really stepped into it. I don't think like Steph Curry. It's bad for society, but they're making a buck off it. But do they really need a buck when you got $100 million? Do you really need that extra mill? They think they do. do. Everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, it's
So-
just another way to make money. Also, we never really got into the details of what a gambling addiction is. Gambling addiction is basically when you just can't help yourself. You gotta bet. And so even when, hell, maybe you are saving for a house and you have $20,000, you just have a hard time holding on to that. You just gotta go bet. That's what leads to divorce, leads to you creating your life. So it is a true addiction. And the fine print when you see those ads, FanDuel and DraftKings, they talk about, if you got a gambling problem, call here, call there. So you go, same time that they're saying the downside of their own product is right on that thing, kind of like GLP-1s or whatever these things are, medications. They always tell you there's 500 risks, right? No one cares about the risk, apparently.
I do gamble, but it's usually control gambling. Like I'm in a pool with guys every year during the NFL season where we put $100 in.
Also, I know you gamble on your bad golfing.
I do not gamble on my bad golfing. Well, the
With
other
your
day
brother-in-law, Bobby.
we bet. What did we bet? The guys I golf with don't like to gamble.
How about gambling on your own? You always play 2 video games, 2, whatever the hell they are.
No,
some shooter.
We don't gamble on them. We're terrible. So
You're terrible, so you don't
Relative to
gamble on your own performance.
no, I don't think I'd gamble on my golfing more than about $1.
This is a shout out to your...
What about you in pickleball? Do you gamble on pickleball?
No, I'm too good. I'm too good. I don't lose, no. So
You've never gone to Vegas, John?
I have gone to Vegas a couple times. I'd have a limit, and then I'd blow that limit and say, it's just like going out to lunch. I'll blow $100 and then stop. That's the way I do it.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty much giving
I'm
money
going to
away.
give a shout out to Bobby. He says you cheat at golf a lot. So Bobby,
Bobby's a gambler on golf. Those guys, they exchange, I don't know, anywhere from $20 to $100 a round. So
yeah, but is he better at you than you in video games?
no. Not
Oh,
video games.
okay,
He's
got
better than me in golf. He plays a lot more than I do.
Okay.
You know what they say, John? You know how to make yourself a small fortune in a casino?
How?
You go in there with a large fortune.
Well, that's a good one-liner. I haven't heard that one. Good, man. I think that's probably enough on just the general topic. Now we're going to take call-ins and talk about these weird video call-ins we've been getting lately.
Yes, we've been getting some strange call-ins.
Yeah, these guys look familiar, but I don't know where the hell they come from.
Yes, they always look familiar.
Our first call-in, we have a pre-screener that, we obviously have this because we have some really weird people. We got to have a pre-screener.
Yeah.
So he's chatted with this guy. Apparently he is, that's not a guy. It's sexy girl. Okay. Sexy girl. Let's see what she has
That's
to
open to
say.
interpretation.
Hello, I'm on Only Spam. I'm known as Sexy Serena, and this is the site where men spend lots of money staring at women, and I'm one of the top models on Only Spam. And what's been happening lately is that all the young boys have been drifting away because they're now on those damn betting sites. They no longer look at me as much. I lost 30% of my revenue to those damn DraftKings and FanDuels. Look at me. How could those boys start switching from those, my OnlyFans site and staring at me to go betting? What is wrong with these young men? It is a disgrace.
Carl, I'll let you lead this discussion.
Yes.
What do you think about her problem?
It's hard for me to start after the impact of her sexiness, but
I know you wanted to call her
I
up.
feel sorry
Yeah.
for you. I'm not sure which is worse, but I'm kind of leaning that gambling addiction is worse than a porn addiction. Both of them take a lot of your time, but at least with the porn addiction, you're only losing a limited amount of money, I'm hoping.
Probably true. Unless your
rates are a lot higher than the only spam person I go see.
what does your wife think about this idea, this theory that is better?
What is my... She's all for it. I'd rather have you
Stay away from me, she's saying.
stay away from me and then lose our money. All right. Yeah, I feel sorry for you. It is I'm hoping it's a passing trend, just like states are limiting porn sites and making you VPN your way to other sites. I hope over time that somehow we outlaw gambling and you can increase your revenue again.
I was thinking she could tie in gambling to, well, what is she going to wear today?
Yeah.
What is her exact measurements? 36, 24, 36. What is she? I don't know.
What toy is she going to use? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So actually, I tend to agree with her. When I had students in high school, they just kept going to, they were starting to do porn sites a lot, but they knew how to break, through the school's firewall. But now they just gamble because they're always behind. They're always taking their money they got from McDonald's and they're trying to.
You ever have a student, John, just all of a sudden yell like in excitement in the middle of class because they won a parlay or a over-under or something?
Yeah, I've had that.
Really?
I go, what's the deal? And he said, I just figured out an algebra question.
And you were pretty skeptical of that response.
I said, Did you cheat to win? Oh, no, sir. No, sir. I'd never cheat. Okay, that was an interesting one from our Only Spam, I guess. Only Spam. It's a new site. So our next caller, again, we have a video caller, and pre-screener says this guy looks a little shady, kind of looks weird. But anyway, he's sort of linked to the mafia. I don't even know his name. But anyway, let's hear this call in.
From New York City, and I'm part of the Sandusky clan. I am the head honcho here, and I don't know where I came from or what my accent is, but it doesn't matter. I'm from New York City. That's all that matters, and I'm in the mafia. And our gambling dollars have decreased like crazy. I haven't killed anybody in multiple days. I just don't know what's going on. I used to break legs and get the money back, but now I have to kind of go around and use the internet. But anyway, we used to make tons of money here in New York City in these gambling rooms. Now all these weirdos just get online and kind of push a button and do all this stuff. I have no clue what they're doing. What I do know is taking away my money. And if I find out who's behind all this betting stuff online, they are doomed. They are doomed. Anyway, what is your view on this collusion between the damn government and these big money internet FanDuels? What the heck and all these offshore accounts? I am starting to starve. I'm eating spaghetti instead of chicken parmesan. Help me, please. Tell me what to do.
And actually say who they are. I guess he never gave his name. He said he was from the Sandusky clan. I don't even know who the hell it is. Anyway, I'm all for his finances going down, unless I guess he has a family and he's maybe Italian. I guess the restaurants locally would be hurt. Other than that, I don't think there's much of a negative to him losing business other than he's a small businessman versus these big corporations.
Yeah.
Which I guess, again, locally, he's probably known as contributes to the church. He pays the salary of widows of people he shot, whatever the heck he does with his money.
Or his own employees.
Yeah. So what is your opinion of this caller?
Well, my opinion is, well, first, don't disparage the Italians, John. I really think he's Russian.
He's a Russian.
It's always the Russians, John.
That's
and the
true.
Poor guy, he didn't focus his lobbying donations, otherwise he calls them bribes, accurately. See, he was going with the police. And it's really the politicians you got to pay off. So that was a mistake. I do feel sorry for him for not being able to break a few legs or bust a few noses. I mean, it's always fun to do that.
What makes you think he's Russian? The hair?
Yeah, the hair and the fact that the Russians have taken over the whole organized crime thing in New York, away from the Italians. The Italians went legit and the Russians, just filled the void.
So what do you think? There's more Russian restaurants in Italy and New York?
No, because Russians really don't like their own food.
That's true. What is Russian food? I have no clue, actually. Boiled potatoes and vodka?
Yeah, kind of.
If you can't make, you can't eat potatoes, you put it into vodka. Vodka's made from potatoes,
you make vodka.
Right?
Vodka's pretty much anything from a sugar source.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be potatoes.
Now, I do think he could shift gears and get in more into the hitman role. The poly market has ideas, or some of these dark sites.
Yeah,
You can bet on
dark web.
anything. You can bet on like, okay, is this guy going to pass away in office? The guy could go, oh, I'm a hit man. Go ahead, describe your idea.
Gauchi and the predictive markets that are legal right now have kind of self-regulated that dark web, which isn't a huge source of revenue, but it's out there. You know, they do have predictive markets that have like a death list.
Yeah,
who's going to die when. That would be if you're a hitman and you're only making 10, 20 grand a whack, you could make a pretty good bet if somebody paid you to hit somebody.
Yeah,
and they were known. It had to be kind of a known figure. Nobody's going to bet on whether John Sace or Carl Sace are getting whacked this year.
I just think your relatives might, but other than our relatives,
they would.
Listeners to this podcast are probably starting a big bet.
Well, the markets are smart. They're like insurance companies, right? They have a thing in there, even the ones that don't have medical clause, that if you knew you had a serious illness, that you're not going to get a payout. So they'll just go look at your medical records after you die, and if your doctor already told you that you had cancer, your poor wife's not going to get a dime. So the same thing with predictive markets. They're not going to... Netanyahu said he has cancer. I think they're going to pull that bet.
They could still predict whether he's going to die in office, which is a thing that could possibly happen. Okay, so Mafia's guys got problems, but we can't solve them all, So we have another...
Yeah, the biggest one is his hair. He needs to do something about that.
It makes him look Russian, apparently. So anyway, you should have a bottle of vodka. That would really... versus what Italian strength, that kind of weird liqueur. Yeah, Campari. I hate that.
They drink a lot of wine.
Okay. And wine versus vodka, whatever. They're both not. So we have another call-in from a pre-screener says it's a 10-year-old calling in. Let's listen to this kid.
I'm 10 years old and I love to play video games. I asked my mama, can I have an allowance? And she gives me an allowance and says, go to the video parlor. That's your babysitter. So I go here to the video parlor and I do a lot of betting. I can count to 4 3 times. I can count. So anyway, I get online through a VPN. My daddy gave me, said, hey, do it, son. Make yourself some money. I know the over and under on the Spurs. I know all kinds of crap. The betting line. I love this. I just love it. It is better than these damn video games I play a lot, but I don't know if it's good for me. Now, I tend to lose money because I'm kind of dumb, and I'm a kid, but I love betting. I see it every day on these damn sports channels. And all my friends, we betting all kinds of things. It is a friggin' night, but I love it. I'm only 10 and I'm on 11. I'm going up. I want some money. Hey, I need to get some Hostess Twinkies. I gotta get some candy. I gotta get lots of stuff. Do you think this is good for me? And it is a good way to babysit. I don't know. I'm too old to babysit anyway. Help me, please. Give me some daddy advice. Thank you.
Okay, that was, the little kid needs to stop rubbing his face, first of all. It's giving him pimples. But besides that, Carl, what do you think about this kid's plight, or what do you think is an interesting way to make money?
I actually think it's based on what I see there. I think it might be good for him. Vocational training, teaching him some software hacks. Doesn't sound like his parents really want him around much anyway, so the faster he's independent and making money, the better. In general, for little kids, though, I don't think betting and losing your money from your allowance is good. But
yeah, I mean, he even knew the betting lines. He knows the over-under on the Spurs games. Man, the kid is sophisticated, even though he looks like an idiot.
Be careful, though.
Why?
Well, we're talking about the corruption, and there has been multiple cases of corruption in basketball. A referee got convicted, 2 players, a player and a coach got convicted, and they're not doing big things. They're doing like, how do we beat the spread, or how do we? That's kind of crazy, multi-million-dollar contracts, and they're taking 10 grand. It's like
they're going to be in jail. The only odd thing about NBA, like swings from 20 points, they'll be down 20 points, and then they'll win by 20 points. It really is probably hard for people to figure out out if someone's influencing that kind of outcome. Now, but the idea that a kid at 10 years old knows all about betting, and it's almost oversaturation of it by TV and online influencers, I think this is not a good thing. My son is now 20-something, but if he had come to me when he was 10 and said he wanted to bet on his own, 10-year-old basketball game, and he had that up on the Poly Market, I'm going, what the shit are you talking about? Get the heck out of here.
But it's funny. I was reading this thing about how parents kind of influence their kids. And, I don't bet hardly at all. And to buy scratch-offs for them at Christmas. The Christmas scratch-offs, the $5, the $1 ones. And we put them in the stocking.
You are a bad dad.
Yeah. So I actually introduced my kids to gambling early. I don't know how old they were, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I still do it. We still buy scratch-offs for everybody, a $10 scratch-off and put it in their stockings.
Now, the real question is, do they use a penny to scratch it off? Or do they even have pennies? No, God, no cash.
But John, even when we were kids, we used to gamble. We used to play penny ante poker, remember?
Well, that's true. I love poker. I do. I still play a poker game, local poker game every once in a while. I'm still focused on how you scratch off a scratch ticket.
Is it important that you scratch it off?
There's no friggin' coins anymore.
Nickel?
No, they use a key now. No, but then the key.
Your fingernail?
Well, there's no keys on the key fob. There's no coins in their pocket. What the hell do they use?
How are they scratching it off? You don't want to ruin their fingernails because they're all getting manicures.
Yeah. I think of odd things once in a while when I'm on this podcast.
I don't think it's just on the odd podcast.
Okay. Well, that's probably enough on this kid. We don't think it's exactly right.
I'm a little bit worried about his upside down glasses, too. It's kind of weird.
Helps his vision. He's dyslexic. I don't know. I make fun of everything. Sorry. So a final caller. We have a final caller. The pre-screen says he's a weird-looking dude that's got cancer. Well, let's listen to this call-in from the cancer patient. I've been smoking a long time and I'm dying from cancer. My doctor says I got 2 or 3 months to live. And I've been working up a scheme with my brother-in-law. We're gonna bet on the Poly Market of Country on my exact timing of death. I've got many ways to do it, but since I'm dying, it's kind of a euthanasia anyway. So I told him to lay $1 million bet on Country on the exact time of my death. My name is Bob Weird Bixby. Weird, I just added Bob Bixby. And my death is timed now for 2 days from now. I've got some ways to do, but do you think this is a valid way to create funds for your inheritance, for your wife or kids or brother-in-law or whoever? I think it's valid since I'm dying anyway. Might as well make some money on it. I have insider knowledge, obviously. Carl, what do you think about this cancer patient trying to predict his own death time?
I think he's going to have a hard time finding the market, but I think it's a good idea.
Better than insurance, right?
I mean, yeah, it's going to be hard to get anybody to insure you.
But getting back to the Russian, do you think the Russian would take the bet if it was high enough?
Russians would take that bet. I think they would take that bet if you gave them enough time to whack you before the bet.
Or you gave them odds. That's right. You said, I'm going to die here.
$100,000 you're going to buy tomorrow, you'd be dead by midnight. Tonight.
They intervene. That's right. They intervene to help the bet.
They would influence the market pretty aggressively.
I didn't think about that. If you did have a bet like that, well, in the dark web, what if there is people?
I'm thinking even if there's a death market out there, it's going to be only on known figures, so that it'd be tougher for anybody to influence it. Because if they accidentally died all of a sudden, there'd be a big investigation. If we die all of a sudden, there'd be goodbye, and I hope the insurance is paid up. At least that's what both our wives would say.
Well, I was thinking about, weird bets. What about Trump going to change his underwear tonight? Is that a bet that's reasonable?
Did you read about this on the same site? You read about the tampon bet? Because
I just thought that.
I was thinking maybe our ankles are going to be any more swollen today than yesterday, something like that.
I actually bet they bet on his McDonald's order. He's going to go visit one of these fast food places or order it on Air Force One. Which order does RFK have? And he's all sitting around. They're all eating McDonald's. What do they get?
Or how many Diet Cokes he's going to drink in one day?
So those are probably more real bets than betting on your own death, because yes, as you know, I could imagine a patient, there's what's called euthanasia, where you purposely put down a cancer patient that's suffering. If the guy could predict it and bet on it, he'd make some crazy amount of money. So I don't think any normal, rational person would allow that bet to happen. But there's some people out there that are not rational.
You can think about it. Insurance companies are betting against you dying.
Yes.
And you're kind of betting that you will die before a certain time, right? If you have like a term policy.
That's true. Yeah. So,
like my term insurance runs out when I'm 74, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I get terminal cancer when I'm 73. It's going to be pretty incentivized to whack myself before I turn 74.
I'm actually going to go to that hospital when you're almost dying, and I'm going to say, resuscitate him. I want to help the insurance companies.
Yeah, I know you would.
Resuscitate Carl.
Anyway, I wonder if that's happened before. Gosh.
It's a good question. It's like a bet. I mean, insurance
most
is like
I don't know if you know this. Most insurance policies have a 2-year suicide exclusion or something.
Oh, that reminds me. Yesterday, your wife called me about taking out insurance on you. I said, what's my cut, lady?
Thank you, John.
That is actually the last of our calls. We're going to now do the what is our take on this whole issue of gambling. My take is gambling addiction is definitely on the rise. We have too many commercials on regular broadcast TV influencing our young on every sporting event. There's not just this, there's a financial side, which is the poly markets, which are getting into really almost every aspect of life. And again, a scenification of everyday reality. It's getting bad, and I don't see it improving anytime unless legislation happens, which might not happen because of the lobbyists. It's big money. I don't think it's right, and our youth is being destroyed. That's my take, whether you like it or not.
Well, for once, John, we agree on something. Yeah, I think the poly market should be outlawed. They're influencing things they shouldn't be influencing. And then the gambling market should really be heavily regulated, and that the state should get tax on every bet. We need to really restrict it and make it very difficult to do legally or underage. I'd be fine with outlawing the whole thing and going back to where we were, where you had to go to Las Vegas or to Indian casinos. It's just creating domestic violence and other crime. That's my take, whether you like it or not.
I would like to thank my co-host and all the video callers for an excellent show. Please subscribe to Half Truths and Whole Lies. Get ready for the next exciting episode, which will drop in 2 weeks. Again, this is Half Truths and Whole Lies, and we look for the truths behind all of the lies.